It's that time.
No, it was that time like 60 seconds ago when we were sitting dicking around and being completely disorganized. And then we suddenly realized, oh my God, it's 7 o'clock. How the hell did it become 7 o'clock?
I know, right? That's okay, though, because tonight we are sharing our time slot with the Preds. So we'll start the show off right, David. Go Preds. There we go. So welcome to Brewing Controversy. I'm Lucas. This is David. And if you're just joining us for the first time, welcome to the nature of our relationship, where we sit around, drink craft beer, and bitch about all things sociopolitical with a decidedly left-wing bias, because that's the only wing.
I don't think, you keep calling it a left-wing bias, and I keep on thinking to myself, is that really bias, or is that just, simply being reasonable and rational?
At this point, it is more and more just reason and rationale. We'll get to that. That is our big topic of the night. Right. The right wing going more and more nutty. But as it stands now, we have started our show now with some hot take quickies, which is essentially a rundown of the days and recent few days events and news. But before we get started with that, David, you doing pretty well?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Not bad. It sounds like we're both out there spending money. I'm doing car repairs. You're doing computer replacements.
For those of you who don't know, I was like that is the face of a man who, dude. All right, I don't like ever. I'll here my Amazon save for later list reads like Tolstoy's War and Peace, man. Like I hate so much. Like every time I do something, I'm like, do I really have to spend the money? Do I really have to spend the money? I will sit there like. If I could, I would sit there and like knit tires back together. I don't care. Right? So going and buying a brand new computer sends me into a whole new world of pissed off.
To clarify, you're already on your new computer. You bought
I had to go buy mom a new computer.
Yeah.
So that's just to clarify.
Mother's Day came early.
Yeah, Mother's Day came early. Mom's getting a new computer and probably some flowers. Once I remember to do that,
there you go.
Closer to time.
Olivia's here. Hey, Olivia, if you're out there, say hi. Feel free to say hello while you crack open your favorite brew, or in Brian's case, pack your favorite bowl. Tomorrow's Brian's day. That's why this is the 420 Eve show. We've got some share of avid viewers that do partake, and tomorrow is the first day I'm living in a city and a state that it's entirely legal, so I've had to contemplate, like, how do I properly celebrate this day? Figure that out. I do know that I've been refusing to listen to The Weeknd's newest album until I can appropriately listen. Maybe tomorrow, maybe that's the day, or the night for those at work. So the Predators tonight are taking on the Flames. They get started as we speak, and we'll try to keep an eye on that while we run down.
If Preds, if you can hear me right now, remember what it was like to play the Oilers. I want you to do the exact opposite of that, please. Please do the exact opposite of that.
Right.
God bless. I mean, I feel like we need to resign ourselves at this point that the playoffs are not happening this year. But
I don't know, man. Hold the hope. Olivia points out that her non-pot smoking husband's birthday is tomorrow. Well, happy pre-birthday. That's kind of funny. But judging by that Viking crowd at the wedding, I'm thinking that there had to be a couple of partakers in the in the crew. So David, I just I shared the list with you, which I should have done, but it looks terrible. But it's in our private chat if you want to follow along. David and I made some notes on the hot take quickies. Of course, the big hot take quickie this week is the sinking of the Russian battleship
Moskva.
Yeah, which of course there's only one appropriate way to celebrate whenever there is a ding on Putin's dickery. So we will take a brief musical break for Okay. Putin Kuyo. And for those that are still catching up, that's Putin is a dickhead. So his battleship got sunk, which is the same battleship that was threatened with the epic and timeless quote, Russian warship, go fuck yourself, which I now own as a yard banner, and it's been sitting out front in front of the house. Occasionally I see people like, what the fuck? And sometimes I see people cracking up while they walk their dogs. They got the joke. They understood the assignment, as the kids say. And then there's some people that look like they might be offended, but living in a decidedly Polish neighborhood, I'm pretty confident most people are with me on this one. So, yeah. John Bush is here, and he points out that you have Super Saiyan energy emitting from your shirt.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with the lighting here. I don't know if I need to go change my shirt or what. This is supposed to be a purple. It's a very purple shirt.
You know what, David? It's fine, because given this past weekend, there had to be something good anime related in Nashville. Anyway, my old show was this past weekend, by the way. I don't know.
Well, I mean, I know they came in. They were weird.
We've been enjoying some low-key smack talk here and there. So Putin's still at it. He's hammering the East with all he's got because, David, as you pointed out to me before we started the show, sinking his battleship was like flicking him on the end of his tiny little micropeen.
Well, it's because in Russian society, the Russian Navy is like, in America, we always think of, the Army or the Marines as being like the real tough, go get 'em guys. And in Russian history, in Russian society, that's not what was considered the pride of the Russian military. Ironically, considering their lack of access to the sea in most cases, it's always been the Russian Navy. Right? That's
Navy.
If you were a Russian naval captain, that was you're better off than some Russian generals in terms of your social cachet and prestige.
Wow.
And sinking the flagship of the Black Sea Fleet is just that's huge. That is a huge slap in the face to the Russians, because again, the Russians love their Navy. And I will say this one thing that's been really interesting to watch is that it seems that the sinking of the Moskva has really moved the needle inside Russia, because Russia claims that everyone got off the boat. But the problem is parents are trying to get a hold of their kids and no one's picking up the phone. Right?
Which begs the question.
Yeah.
Perhaps it didn't go well.
Yeah.
Which, of course, most people would be fine with, given the volume of civilians that have been offed by Russians. So,
but at least inside Russia, the idea that those Cossacks down there sunk the pride of their fleet.
Yeah.
It would be bad if they sunk, a little corvette or a destroyer, but to sink this big old missile cruiser designed to bombard the shore with impunity, that's bad. And the thing is, Russia is by its actions is all but admitted that the Ukrainians did sink it, because the first thing that the Russians did was they pulled their entire fleet back 180 miles.
Yeah.
From the shore. So
it was a rough equivalent of a bunch of boats going, no. Yep. We're good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and in among the swirl of this particular topic has been the discussion of the UN, mostly the fucking garbage that there are any vetoes or permanent members, etc. And there's been a lot of talk about the UN's obsolescence. And I texted you a few days ago. I was like, David, I don't know what the fuck is wrong, but I'm actually finding that I'm in league with people like Bolton, where I have to agree, UN is kind of full of shit right about now.
Well, here's the thing. Bolton doesn't trust any international organization whatsoever. He doesn't even really trust NATO. I think the problem is that when when NATO was founded 70 years ago, right? When we got NATO really off the ground 70 years ago, there was a significant concern about how we needed to stop the next world war. And I don't think everyone in the UN was thinking entirely about state actors and doing that. I don't think any of them envisioned the world we have now, which is it's monopolar in that the US is still largely in charge of everything. But it is also multipolar in that the US is not explicitly in charge of every facet of things, right? And it's unbalanced the equation a lot. The internet, the movement of labor, all of these things that have radically changed the landscape of international economics and international politics have rendered the breaks that were supposed to exist inside the UN kind of obsolete. And I'm with Zelensky. I think, and again, we've talked about this, I think democratic nations need to have their own UN. I think, if you're a country that respects human rights and free elections, and the thing is, it also needs to be an organization, unlike the EU, unlike some of these other organizations, where we can kick people out. And we'll go into this a little bit later, like Hungary right now. Jesus Christ, right? Throw them out. But I mean, they can't even get properly thrown out of the European Union.
Right.
And believe me, they've been trying. So we need to rethink about what sort of international organizations we want to have. NATO can throw people out pretty effectively. Not that they necessarily want to, but they can. It doesn't take a unanimous vote. And this sort of
and the veto thing makes unanimous fucking pointless, right? I mean,
technically in the UN, if the resolution on the table is regarding you, a veto empowered member, you cannot veto theoretically, right? But the problem is it's sort of one of those constitutional crisis moments where no one's ever tried that before.
So, who's going to swing the biggest dick and will it work?
Right. I mean, could the UN pass a resolution against Russia? Yes. In theory, could Russia veto that resolution? No. The problem is, what happens if Russia stands up and says, we're going to veto it anyway?
Right.
What do we do now?
It would be really interesting to see how things unfold in a way that rights the ship, but I kind of tend to lean more toward what we've talked about recently on this show, which is a new international organization of some kind that's much more modern. I think modern is the problem. Like, you can say egalitarian, you can say a lot of shit, but really modern. It's that we've got a bunch of relics of ideas that do not apply, and we have to have something better and newer. So I don't know. We'll see. In other news locally, as you are aware, and our viewers are aware, I took a little time out last week, went to the city commission, dropped a few harsh words. Then I found myself Saturday night joining in the big march. There was a march every night, but I think there might be marches right now. I haven't actually kept up, but the funeral for Patrick Lyoya here in Grand Rapids, for those that are not aware, gunned down by GRPD, is Thursday. Big celebrity, fucking Al Sharpton, the whole fucking circus is in town. Kind of makes me disappointed. There's a lot of shit that's disappointing me about my homeland of Nashville right about now, because we have a way better movie theater scene as of Thursday last week. And now this Thursday, we will have the full Dog and Pony show from the civil rights movement as it stands in a modern context, which Nashville should have had when Andrew, what's his dick, fucking shot that guy in the back while he was running away. But for some reason, we just weren't far enough along. We weren't post George Floyd yet. But we've got the whole deal here. I'm interested to see, how the pressure continues. But I was there with bells on at the march, and I thought, I'm going to stay for a couple hours, and I'm going to like gracefully just kind of evaporate, right? I found that to be impossible. Now I have the chapped lips and sore nostrils to prove it because it was 34 degrees. But I brought one photo with me for show and tell. So I spent a lot more time up front than I thought. They actually called for white allies to take the front line. So I joined in a little bit of that, but I didn't do the lock arm thing because I wanted to be able to be mobile enough. I found a lot of fun in my tendency to prefer to cause mischief against corrupt government entities, coordinating with the actual black leaders of this effort with ideas from a mischievous white guy perspective. So I made a lot of suggestions to them about things they could do that would be, safe bets, but particularly biting.
So you made yourself particularly annoying, is what you're saying.
I made myself useful while being in the background, because the last thing I want to do, the last thing any of us should want to do as white folks, is step into the spotlight of this. This is a black folks movement. This picture I thought really captured some interesting shit. First of all, the guys in the dark color are state police, and a lot of people were remarking on the fact that the state police didn't have body cams. So the agency that's supposed to be entrusted with investigating this shooting didn't even bring body cams to the equation. And of course, the GRPD, they're the light blue jacket people. They have body cams. They weren't turned on. I don't really know how that works. It may be that they only get turned on at certain points in time. And then there's a bunch of, light armor.
Yeah, I love that excuse. I love that excuse from police agencies. Well, you wouldn't want to. I'm like, companies put cameras on their employees all the time. And leave them on their employees all the time. Also, I've heard arguments. Well, it's about data storage. I'm like, you weren't recording this in 4K high def.
No, and we've got a lot of cloud. I want to remark on the comedy that we finally found a vehicle that the Michigan State Police doesn't put a comically large Barney Fife light on the top of, and it's the bicycles. Which I made as a very loud joke at their expense in front of them, which was a lot of fun. But I want to highlight a new friend I've made here in town, right there in the red hoodie. The man stands out. That's D. D has been sitting next to me at almost every commission meeting by happenstance because we're both front row talk first guys. And D is a really cool, genuine community organizer type dude. And he's been out there preaching to these people that they got to get involved. They got to go to meetings. They got to get in commissions. They got to participate in the budget process. And I did get the chance to nab a megaphone later on in the march. And I was able to use that as a chance to highlight D and his efforts to motivate these people and educate them. And I really felt like very happy that D was there and he's still there. And I've invited him to join us on the show, David. So hopefully soon D will come in. I've also invited the lady that's the head of the Royal Black Panther Party that's been putting these on. I've basically told both of them I would love to have them here, to lend an actual credibility voice instead of a couple of fucking white dudes talking about this stuff. Right. But I really thought it was cool that a lot of people showed up to help elevate this movement, from my side of the fence. We're going to be working something out about next week's show as far as me maybe not being right on time. I will be at the commission again. This time it will be the Why Are You So Mad, Lucas address, where I explained to them the reason I'm so pissed off is I know that if I were black, I wouldn't be here because I've been a smart ass to cops. So we'll see how that works out. David, tell us, speaking of pains of regular people that aren't empowered, tell us about this student debt thing that you were kind of going on about this a couple days ago, and I thought it was compelling. Wanted to throw it in the hot takes.
It's just a silly thing. I've been hearing these arguments about we can't forgive student debt because it would push up inflation even further by just wiping out this $2 trillion. Part of the reason we have such high inflation is we're asking private employers and everyone else to service this $2 trillion in debt. If I were to make a deal to say, hey, listen, we're going to cut back on some things, but in exchange, I'm going to get rid of all your student debt. Well, I don't need, $70,000 a year to pay my mortgage and service my student debt and my health care. You've taken at least one of those big ticket items off my plate. Right. I can now be more competitive in the market. Maybe I don't want to do this job. Maybe I can go take a lower paying job. Maybe I just want to change the scenery. I can take lower pay now because I don't have to service my student debt. Or if I'm not servicing my student debt, right? Either I could be paying down other debt. I mean, the knock-on effect. Everyone's afraid that people are just going to go turn around and just spend. I mean, and this is the problem. Fucking trickle-down economics says that the cure to everyone's fucking problems is always, well, the rich just need to spend. Well, I just made a lot of people a little bit richer. Them spending money is supposed to fix the problem, right?
They don't spend money in ways that benefit regular people, and they don't spend money, period.
But what I'm saying is the regular people get the money, and then all of a sudden that's the problem. But I'm like, wasn't that the whole point of trickle-down economics?
Right.
That more people spending more money is good. Oh, because the problem is that the wealthy in this country have jacked up the prices on so many basic goods, and once people got the wherewithal to have leverage, such as unionizing in Starbucks, in Amazon, and all sorts of other places, Apple is now heading towards a union fight. Once average people got the wherewithal to fight and say, I would like to actually get ahead instead of handing you assholes back my entire paycheck and then some every month. Now we have a problem because now I, rich asshole, who decided I was going to make all this money off of real estate, well, I've jacked up the price of real estate to the point where it's an inflationary pressure. I, rich asshole, who wanted to invest in a hospital company or in a pharmaceutical company, we've jacked up the prices so far, and now people have the wherewithal to say, I need more money to pay for these things, or you won't get any work out of me. Well, now that high price is a problem, right? Because before, everyone on the bottom could just continuously be squeezed, and we could control that inflation. Because no one was actually buying the pharmaceuticals except the wealthy, or those the wealthy made those things available to at some sort of discount.
Yeah. So your general thesis would be that if we could get the student debt thing into a full forgiveness mode, that would make a dent in how desperate we are for income. I mean,
if you could I would argue that debt forgiveness right now would be could very well be a deflationary pressure, or at least help stem the tide of inflation, simply because we can
spend our money on better shit.
Yeah.
Jeremiah points out some
pitfalls
here. Problems with the programs to give loan forgiveness for those that work in government positions and nonprofits. I think we've heard a little bit about that. Loan givers don't follow the rules. Shocker.
Right.
The big article, the programs did not even work for JAG lawyers. I'm expecting you to plant some kind of lawyer civil war flag in JAG versus whatever you would consider not JAG. But that's in so many programs.
You mean the weirdo core?
We have places where shit falls apart. And this is not an exception.
JAG lawyers are weird people. I've never met one where I'm just like, that seems like a perfectly well-adjusted human being. Nope.
But the point remains, as long as we're allowing anybody to fuck anybody or cheat anybody, it's not really going to be reform. I think your idea has a lot of merit. I would love to see some of that come around, which brings us to ways that shit won't get any better, aka the midterms. So I asked you an innocent question the other day, and I was perturbed by the answer, and then I'm more perturbed by your extended possibilities. But what I was really starting to wring my hands, because since the January 6th Commission seems to be so timidly moving slow, and Garland
they're not being
seems
timid.
to
Garland
not
is being
really
timid.
do what?
Garland is the one being timid because he's trying to find the perfect case.
Well, Garland's trying to find the perfect set of balls. He doesn't remember what shoebox he stored them in, or if he ever had any. I don't know if he had any to begin with. But I asked you, hey, what happens if we really do come out of the midterms with the Republicans gaining fucking control of both houses? Does that kill the commission? The answer was yes, but not the Justice Department investigation, which of course brings us back to the aforementioned lack of testing.
I want to come back to this defeatism we already have about the fucking midterms. I think that there's all this hand wringing, and I feel like the hand wringing is a lot of people looking at Democrats, looking at Biden in particular, but looking at Schumer and Pelosi and the rest of our leadership and saying, hold up, guys. We asked you to start at the very least, getting the ball fucking rolling. Right. And you all cannot seem to find your ass with both hands, a map, and a paid Sherpa.
It's so true.
Oh, good golly, miss.
And that's the thing. Like,
there it is.
It is worthy to question, like, all of the criticism, all the media sensationalism about, the left has lost their steam. They're going to lose all these elections. I mean, it might just be that we're tired of the fuckers we've got, and we're likely to support the other fuckers that challenge said fuckers. I mean, I was telling you earlier about the Twitterverse. I peeked into Twitter earlier and had some pundits running around asking questions like, hey, let me set the media straight. Do you support Biden as much today as you did in the election? And I said, fuck no. No. Because he's a pussy about Ukraine, he has lost traction with
I didn't support Biden. Here's the thing. I was never excited about Biden. The problem is, and I don't think most Democrats, leftists, anyone who is earning less than $100,000 a year and lives in suburbia, I don't think anyone was excited about Biden. I think Biden was this compromised candidate with the leadership. The leadership slammed its fist down and said, we are the Democratic Party. And we're not, and to a certain degree, okay, I get it. Leaders are supposed to lead, sometimes even in spite of the people that they're leading. That makes sense. And that can happen. And God knows you'd wish the Republican Party would do it to Donald Trump and say, no, you're a nutter. We're not dealing with you anymore. I don't care how much our people, it seems like a plurality of our people want you. We're not dealing with that. Biden was this compromise candidate and basically made some overtures to the left, what we call the left, and said, I'm going to try and get these things done. Great. The problem is, it seems like now he just simply can't find a way to get the ball forward. And it seems like he's unwilling to press. And I think a lot of it has to do with Sinema and Manchin in the Senate. Yeah. I think a lot of it has to do with Schumer is not, in truth, Schumer is not that great or effective as a leader. He really isn't, as a majority leader. He cannot whip his party like McConnell can. Now, I mean, the counterpoint to that is on the other side, the Democrats have Pelosi, who is a master chess player, right? She understands all the ins and outs. She is great at running the political machine inside the House.
Right.
The problem is that Pelosi, in truth, doesn't want a lot of radical change. She's
No.
scared of it.
No.
And the thing is,
She's way too old school. She doesn't want
Yeah.
to be toppled as the queen before her time. You know, she's Cersei, and AOC and the squad are Daenerys. You know, it's just not in the cards.
No,
Olivia points out that Biden was begrudging, throws hands up. Oh, well, I guess. I kind of liken Biden to NyQuil, right? Like, you feel like shit, but you got to work. So you're going to down a little bit of, as Dennis Leary said, green fucking death fucking flavor NyQuil, because it'll help you get better. But it's not really what you want. You'd prefer to just have a nice, you know, OJ or mimosa and slowly ease back into normality. And so, you know, I understand the lukewarmness that he comes to, you know, already. And the other tweet that I saw that I responded to was, would you vote for Biden again? I said, yeah, at the 11th hour, after I had supported every other primary candidate in the process, should he be challenged.
Yeah. I mean, and you know me, like, I started out as a Harris supporter, and then I finally saw Warren actually figure it out for herself.
Yeah.
And
you went Harris, Warren. Did you go Bernie before Biden?
No, again,
I went Bernie. No, I went Biden, Bernie, Harris for like a week, and then I realized that her whole fucking show was just a fucking disaster.
No, I mean, I had high hopes for her at the beginning. As being
you talked me into that week of Harris,
right? I know.
Hey, I'll give it a try. Hey, you know what? Purple and whatever the fuck other color that was.
She was willing to go the Warren route of I can be left and be sensible at the same time.
Yeah.
And then she gave up on that, and that pulled me off of Harris. And then I was left with Warren, who I can be left and I can be sensible. My problem with Sanders will always be he is left, but if I ask him to be sensible,
yeah, right. To be fair, you know, I voted for Sanders in the primary. I think you voted for Warren in the primary. We were a split house. We were Sanders-Warren primary house. But yeah, there's nobody of any reasonable ilk is here to pretend like, you know, like we're just ride or die Biden. You know, it's not exciting. It's not a thing. Sharma's got the best one on this topic. Who's running on the left and irrational campaign? If so, I'm all in.
That's my only problem with Sanders. I love Sanders. I love Sanders' ideas to death. But if you ask Sanders, hey, I need you to run the numbers about how we're going to pay for this. Could you do that for me? Yeah. And then he's like, I'll get back to you.
I'm like, I don't care. I don't care. It's the right thing to do. You know, well,
I mean, it is the right thing to do, but the problem is I just need to know how we're going to fucking pay for it. That's all.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's where I get on Warren's side, because Warren says, okay, we want to do Medicare for all. We're going to do a 10-year phased in program to get us there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, is that going to immediately solve everyone's problems? No. But the 10-year phase in basically allows us to do all sorts of cool things, like, you know, find a way to compensate for the job, you know, the jobs that are about to be lost from health insurance providers, compensate for, we have to renegotiate contracts with the entire medical industry about how they're going to provide services, because we're not going to just nationalize all the hospitals. We would be in trouble at that point. We would be in a lot of trouble. So I mean, I like Warren's sensibility in terms. I like that she is leftist and can come back and say, I can do a balance sheet. You know, that's always my joke. In the past life, I must have been William Pitt. And, you know, there was a joke in the British Parliament about because, you know, everyone has their vices, and, you know, someone, you know, offhandedly asked William Pitt what his was, and he said, a good balance sheet, sir.
So to blow through our last couple of items on the list, going back to the home front for Nashville a little bit.
I just want to answer Jeremiah thing real fast. Because here's the problem. The VA has been intentionally starved of resources for almost its entire fucking existence.
Yeah, that's like saying public education doesn't work. I mean,
yeah. I mean,
these things don't work when they're not funded or managed.
Canada's healthcare system works great. It works fantastic. I mean, no one's getting off. I mean, I love the conservative stories of like, well, people come here for healthcare. I'm like, oh, really? Let's see where healthcare tourism is highest. And you want to know where healthcare tourism is highest?
Not here.
It's not in the U.S. It's India. India is the highest for healthcare tourism. You want to know why?
I thought it was Brazil for some reason.
No, because India will do it for cheaper. India will give you
what the American answer is to that, David. Oh yeah, but everything's a shithole, which I am very low on patience for that, because we've got some real bougie bullshit that jacks up the perceived value of healthcare.
Exactly, and that's the problem. Is even for medical tourism, no one's coming to the vaunted U.S.
Right.
So I think the real issue is that the VA has been was intentionally broken, and then you had Perlmutter come in.
Oh God, we don't have time for that hate boner. We're going to talk about the Tennessee legislature using Hitler as an example of why they should outlaw homelessness. Yeah. So, occasionally headlines make their way through the algorithms to me here and make me just, oh my God, that's where I'm from. That's where I'm from. I'm from the place that just passed legislation to make it a misdemeanor to camp in areas near a state or interstate highway. $50 fine, community service requirement, right of ways, bridges, etc. But then that fucking jackass,
he had to retract it. I just want to clarify this. He did have to come back and retract it.
Nicely, what a name. Nicely tried to say, oh, but homeless people can go on to do big things. And his best example was Hitler, which kind of is just a peekaboo of how out of touch the right wing is. That when you're under pressure making shit up, you don't have an example of a homeless person that made good without having to just jump to Hitler. It was so typical of the GOP, but it's more interesting to focus on the fact that the legislature thought it was suitable to say, if you're a victim of the circumstance of homelessness, the phenomenon, it's not a crime, it's a phenomenon, then you should be guilty of a crime. And notice the one thing, to me, the glaring thing, by doing this, they push it off to the cities by saying, oh, well, state highways, state parks, state right-of-ways. Basically, they make it so that the only place homeless folks could be is a city right-of-way, a city space, a city park.
They want them out of Fort Negley.
Right. Well, is that state?
That's state. Okay. Fort Negley is state. For those of you who don't know,
they just want them out of the fucking Bicentennial Park, apparently, because I was waiting for a bus one night at Bicentennial Park.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really feel like having a fight that night. For some reason, I was just chill and I wasn't my normal self. I laid down on the bus bench while waiting for the bus that comes through the park. This was, I think, when we still had the freebie, and I was going to take the free shuttle because it would run out to TSU across the street from the house. And this motherfucker, which now I understand isn't even a cop, this fucking cheesy ass state security patrol, which once I had my showdown about the towing, I learned how to talk shit to these guys. But this guy rolls up and says, you can't lie down on the bench. Like, does somebody else need the seats? He says, you can't lie down. I'm going to have to make you leave. Like, are you fucking serious? Okay, fine. I'll sit. Jesus Christ. They're that fucked up about somebody daring to use taxpayer-funded surfaces at fucking 11 o'clock at night to relax a little bit. So it's probably that. It's probably some butthurt about that shit.
Well, I mean, you have to remember what the real problem with the GOP and homelessness is, which is it's proof of a moral failing.
No, that's true.
I mean,
If they can hide it, they don't have to acknowledge it.
well, no, I mean, no, it's proof. It's proof that that the fact that they're homeless is proof that there's something morally wrong with them.
Mm. You mean a perceived moral failure on the homeless? Okay, yeah,
Exactly.
See, to me, it's a moral failure.
If they'd only worked harder,
right.
if they
Well, in other legislative fuckery, apparently the Metro Council back home in Nashville had to publicly rebuke to a 23-1 resolution to condemn the shitheads in the chamber from an idea that's been floated to allow mayors to swat different termed out school board members out of their position and appoint their own butt buddy.
Yep.
You brought this to my attention. I haven't even fucking heard about it. Of course, nothing surprises me about the Nashville Chamber. They are basically the like if you went to a school that had a business college, it's those fucking pricks all sitting around in a circle jerk.
No. That you're being too generous. You're being too generous.
Okay.
If you went to a school with a business college and mandatory Bible study,
okay.
there you go. Now you've found the Nashville Chamber of Commerce.
It's hard to describe how I didn't give a fuck about the Nashville Chamber, but I paid to join the chamber here in Grand Rapids. But that's kind of the vibe. So these assholes are under the deluded impression that if they support this effort that could potentially be a state law thing, that underperforming schools, it comes back to the thing we just mentioned. If you just don't support and don't fund it, it must be a failure. Well, it's because you're a fucking asshole and you haven't supported the system as designed. But basically they would have it so that mayors could make this insertion of their own puppets to replace school board members. Now, don't get me wrong. I think basically everybody but maybe one or two of the current Metro School Board could totally stand to be kicked out on their ass. But that's because they're idiots, not because they have some kind of, they've crossed the line of some kind of right-wing fucking measure. But you pointed out, and I thought it was hysterical, that they imagined somehow that one day Nashville would have a Republican-oriented mayor that would put the people in place that they want in place to help them with all their conservative bullshit agenda, which of course includes farming a ignorant, gullible, stupid workforce that they continue to exploit at slave wages for all of their riches.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, but you have to remember, it wasn't too long ago. Purcell was not a liberal Democrat.
True. I still give him a lot of points for a lot of great shit. But
if you could even call Purcell a Democrat, because I'm pretty sure he was a Republican. This was a long time ago. Granted,
it's a really hard line to draw because of the timing.
Yeah.
But yeah, this notion is, I mean, it's already ridiculous that Tennessee has party-based primaries for school boards now.
Yeah.
Which in itself isn't crazy. It's just crazy that it came down from the state level, because cities and counties had the ability to be quote unquote nonpartisan, which was always bullshit. You always knew who was right and left, and but
oh god, what was her name? The crazy PragerU lady
in school board?
No, for mayor.
Are you talking about Swain?
Swain, there we go. I couldn't remember her name. So irrelevant.
The black woman android body piloted by a tiny Caucasian alien from the right wing with like buttons and levers inside the like fucking face cockpit of a otherwise viable black female appearance. Yes. That fucking cunt. Yeah. Uh-huh. I saw one of her banners during the last mayoral race. God. It was either blown down or torn down on the concrete, and I never wished I had to pee so bad so I could piss on her face. That fucking idiot. Anyway,
but I mean, because that election was technically not nonpartisan,
right? Technically, but then you had fucking Fox, like Fox, literally his last name Fox, but he was also like, he might as well be Fox. And then Swain. Yeah, Fox and Swain were the two.
I completely forgot about that. Thank you,
hitters.
thank you so much, Fox, for being wishy-washy, and Swain for being such a nutter.
Yep.
That
conservative Opie and batshit Aunt Jemima. Right. Yeah.
Quit, ladies and gentlemen. I'll be back.
So anyway, let's move on to beer. So those that have been along for the ride know that we kick the show off now with a "What You Drinking" segment. So let's talk about what it is that we've chosen to start with tonight, ladies and germs.
We are like well past.
Yeah, this is good. This is fine. We ran down a bunch of interesting shit. We actually got a lot of shit packed in. But David and audience, what you drinking?
All right, I was drinking this 1911.
Well, you gotta still talk about it.
Lucas took way too long to get to the what you drinking. I almost felt like I needed to like message him on private chat and be like, "You're gumming up the works here, asshole." But
so Beak and Skiff, I had never heard of these guys.
Yeah, and they make this 1911.
Okay. Here, let me stick you on the big screen so you can show off that sexy can. There you go.
This 1911. They make 1911, which is actually a whole line of ciders that they do. I'll be honest, the ones that I've had in the past, it's okay. This was for cider a little bit sweet from where I might have liked it, but it was really complemented by the tart on the raspberry. And it was one of those things where you could have gone overboard and wrecked it with too much raspberry. They call it a hint of raspberry. It's like saying my whole foot up your ass is, a suggestion of me kicking it.
So it's pretty raspberry.
It's really raspberry, but the thing is, they balance it out really well because my problem with 1911, just the regular cider, is it's too sweet, and so this actually worked out very well because you had a lot of the tart from the raspberry, because raspberries are very tart, which is why I freaking love them, and
they describe it as a lingering burst of raspberry. Sounds like a breakfast cereal description.
Lingering burst is like, watching the Trinity experiment and then, wondering what that big bright spot is.
It sounds like I would like it. I like some raspberry stuff. So
I love raspberries. So I actually really enjoyed this. It was good. I only get to talk about it from memory now because Lucas can't hit a button.
I mean, we had a lot of important shit to talk about.
We did. Granted.
Well, mine is a combination of good news, bad news. I've had this beer on the show in its original format before. This is the Elk Peanut Butter and Jelly. I had the regular one. It's an amber ale, but it's blackberry. This is the blackberry edition. Blackberry jam and peanut butter sandwiched together for a delicious duo, a twist on our original peanut butter and jelly. And here's the problem. The news landed today that Elk Brewing is shutting down. And one of our last things in our roundup of briefer topics was to talk about the beer industry. The craft beer industry is having an important year because this is kind of make or break time. I was reading an article in the Michigan Business Journal. It's kind of like do or die time. If the rebound of business doesn't happen for some of these, they're going to shut down. And that's really fucking sad. Elk is one of those. They're having a big party, I think May 14th. I encourage everybody to keep track of that and go, but also go buy the hell out of their beer. Right now, you can't get an IPA, their signature IPA, out of the building. They don't have it in the keg. They have it in the can. And they'll pour you one in the tap room on Wealthy Street. So I hope this story doesn't proceed like into other places nationwide. I hope this isn't a trend, but Elk Brewing, this is one of the final opportunities. I bought a mixed 6-pack. I will probably talk about others between now and the closure but I really hope that that's not a sign of things to come. But here's to them. Here's to Elk Brewing. It's a good beer. It tastes much more blackberry and amber than peanut butter. It's kind of a background base of peanut butter. It does the bitey thing of blackberry pretty well. Almost a sour, but not. It's like it's the good parts of sour. I'm not a sour guy. So anyway, it's pretty tasty, pretty good stuff. I encourage everybody to go out and grab it if you can, if you're in an area where the stores have it, or you're in the Grand Rapids or Michigan vicinity. He's back. I didn't even know what you were doing until I checked on the thing. Like, what's he doing? Because you were still there, and I'm like, he didn't go pee. What happened?
Sorry, I was doing my newsroom thing.
Yes, yeah. It's okay, David. You can smoke in front of us.
No. I will smoke my pipe on air.
Only the pipe.
I will not smoke. What?
Only the pipe.
What?
Well, that's okay because you're back just in time. It's your time, David.
I know. I had to be back for it.
That's
why I needed a newsroom moment before we went into this.
The new format brings us a minor topic to dig into, and usually it's one of us will bring that topic. And tonight, it is David's home turf.
I'm going to clarify. This is like a mutual thing because I've done the last 3 or 4, I don't know, like minor topics. I've only done the last 3. Last time it was because, well, you have terrible time management. That's my excuse, and I'm sticking to it.
Look, I'm a man of the people. What can I say? I had to stick around.
But yeah, so this is basically a whole segment, mostly because Musk has announced that he's going to buy Twitter.
Well, I mean, he keeps doing different dickeries around that.
And here's the thing. I don't think he is. I want to clarify this at the front end. I don't think he actually wants to buy Twitter. I think he just wants to be a dick. And I think Jack Dorsey is being a dick. And these fucking tech bros just piss me the fuck off. And I have some very choice words for Elon Musk's ancestry, in which that will definitely get us fucking in trouble with Facebook and YouTube if I went on about that.
Well, suffice to say, it's boner alert time.
Yeah.
Because David always wears his Elon Musk hate boner on his sleeve. It's like Star Trek. Not everyone keeps their genitals in the same place, Captain. And in David's case, it's a giant throbbing hate boner on his forearm. It's funny. You've worn me down. Like, I used to be kind of like, he names his starships after sci-fi stuff and he's doing space things. And the more I learn about his dumb fuckery, and I know that I'm not politically correct when I say this, but he is the classic fucking example of a spectrum kid without a friend to say, hey, whoa, back off. You're being crazy in front of people again.
Yeah. I have to do that to my dishwasher on a regular basis.
Like, there's something about when you get the spectrum kid plus the money plus the lack of accountability, you get goddamn Elon. And I've worked a lot of cons. I know about working with some spectrum kids, but there's always somebody to say,
right.
There's nobody telling him to shut the fuck
like
up.
His whole spiel. He gave a whole spiel the other day about how he's quote unquote homeless. He wants to claim to be homeless.
What?
Yes. He wants to claim to be homeless because he refuses to spend money on a house. And apparently his girlfriend, his baby mama, who I'm going to be honest, like he went, in true nerddom, he went out and married the real life version of Manic Pixie Chick. And even she is like, he tried to
touch the nerd trophy wife. You're absolutely right.
Right. He tried to set us up in a $40,000 house. Like, not $40,000 a month, $40,000 a year. The price of the house that Musk wanted to set them up in was $40,000.
That's less than the price of a Tesla.
Right. I mean, he is just
I
But
mean, he's trying to do
wanted to,
financing at this point so he can get 43 million. Like, he had the majority share. He started talking about all this fucking bullshit. I mean, ultimately, all he wants to do is turn Twitter into an edgelord paradise.
right.
And like, they've done some kind of fucking poison pill. I'm
Yeah.
reading through all
So
of
a
it.
poison pill is basically
It's
you've,
nuts.
you've actually watched me enact this before, haven't you?
Yeah.
But you've watched me poison pill a deal.
Uh-huh.
Only mine involved criminal charges. That's a long story, boys and girls, and we're not going to go into that on this show.
Essentially, Twitter is trying to make sure he doesn't get control. Like, the only idea he's had that wasn't bat fuck retarded was, what was it, the dislike or something?
You
There's
know,
like a thumbs down thing or something. I don't
yeah,
know.
it's not even that.
Oh no, the edit button. That was it. It was the edit
Yeah,
button.
he wants to add an edit button so you could
Which
go back.
I'm fine with that as a purveyor of many typos. I'm cool with
Yeah, I mean that's fine,
whatever.
but I mean
He's not a genius for fucking saying so any more than he's a genius for putting a battery under a cool looking car.
no, and it's not even a cool battery. I mean, I really
I
want
said cool looking car, not battery.
right. No, well, because one of the things I got really excited about is Nissan is announcing a new battery, a new battery configuration, which is really cool. And because a lot of people are, this is a slide aside, but this is again why Musk is a fucking idiot, is because did you do anything different with Tesla? This is always my argument against Musk. And it's one of the reasons why his bid for Twitter, I think, is also going to fail, is because Musk is a terrible engineer. Musk is not an engineer. Musk is a self-promoter of I'm smart and I make smart things. But the only problem is he doesn't actually do any of that, right? The Boring Company, right? His big, I'm going to figure out how to make all these tunnels and that's going to be really cool. They can't make any tunnels. They suck at it. They suck so bad at it. He has brought no technology, no innovation, not even structural administrative reforms to how am I going to organize a company that digs tunnels? I mean, that at the very least would be, to me, it's like, oh, well, I streamlined the process. That would be an innovation of some kind. He can't even do that.
You know, what I learned over the years is that kind of individual can't be explained why they're not being reasonable, because they're just so goddamn brilliant that everybody else must be stupid.
Right, but he's an idiot. He is a flaming idiot, and that's one of the reasons I hate him so much. Is because all he does is simply tell a story about his cult of personality. He's like the guy from Catch Me If You Can, right? That's what he is. He's the guy from Catch Me If You Can. If he just tells the story enough times, then it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And he is so bad at everything he touches. He didn't invent Tesla. Other people built Tesla and he just bought it and then said, look at this cool thing that I built.
Mm-hmm.
But you didn't build it. SpaceX, again, didn't really found that. We were talking about something that a lot of people have been going towards. The only thing Musk did was put more money towards it because Boeing and Lockheed really weren't believed, and I strongly believe too, that this should really be the province of governments, not private enterprise. That this is a definition of something that should be a public work to which private companies should supply equipment and expertise, but not run the show.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I don't want, speaking, we didn't go into this, but Tennessee right now is doing this whole inviting radical right-wing Hillsdale College to set up 50 charter schools. And the problem is that they're about to get kiboshed because the Department of Education has passed new rules about for-profit charter schools. And people are asking, well, if this is a non-for-profit organization, why would they care about rules against for-profit? So, because you were actually going to make a profit. That's what you were going to do. You were going to make a profit. So he hasn't invented anything. He hasn't done anything. But the Twitter fight is an interesting sort of view into how he thinks about what he does, which is he's going to go disrupt. Right? He disrupted the car industry. He disrupted space exploration. I hate that word. And I say this as someone who is very familiar with tech, and I like tech. And I like when industries modernize and change and improve through new and innovative thought. Musk doesn't have innovative thought, though. He has I'm Musk.
Yeah, and I fell for it too. I fell for oh, look, he's a nerd's nerd. He names things after science fiction stuff.
Well, and also whenever he hits a roadblock, and this is one of the things, Lucas, I'm surprised you never picked up on. Whenever he hits a roadblock, it's always feminists or woke people or government getting in my way. I mean, there's a reason he's not married to his girlfriend, because he thinks she's too much of a feminist.
Well, guys like that can't keep women around for very long. I've realized that.
Well, and on top of it,
I like that Olivia has provided us with a wall of his goofy ass actually buys Twitter and decides to do zero content moderation. There are only two possible outcomes. One, the platform becomes unusable because it's full of spam, porn, and Nazis. Two, he has a moment of realization that content moderation is actually necessary. I'll have to go back on that decision.
Two is never going to happen, because
I don't think he has any moderation.
No, because here's what happened when its own.
You're right about that number one part, though. It's going to be a complete fucking wasteland.
This is one of the jokes about the so-called most modern car in America, the Tesla, which is it has the most unsafe automobile factory in America. Right?
Yeah.
And when his workers complained, he basically, and I mean, goddamn, if they had done this under Biden, I would have loved to see the National Labor Relations Board jump down his throat like the entire 101st Airborne going into Normandy, because he basically threatened to move the whole company to Texas.
Right,
to kibosh their attempts to unionize to have a safer workplace and not have racists as their bosses. Which I'm sure the racist is bosses thing. He's like, there's no racism. I'm like, again, not going to comment on Elon's ancestry. I'm just going to point out racist as bosses is probably something Elon Musk, formerly of South Africa, a white South African, might not necessarily understand is bad. Just saying.
Come on, David. We all know that you want to go full Kirk. African.
Yeah, I just want to clarify, because some people get confused if you don't know the term. African and African is a black person from Africa, and Afrikaan is our white South Africans, who even the Dutch thought were too fucking nutty, and they threw them off the boat on the Cape of Good Hope.
It's the backstory that gives validity to Cartman saying Black African American. Like it just sounds like him being silly, but technically it's necessary definition.
There are technically Musk is an African American. This is true.
An African American.
But yeah, or you can just say Boer, which even people understand even less. You're just like, Boer? What? Like just nutters. Just all of them fucking nutters.
So here's hoping Twitter just mounts a fight and fucks him up.
I think they will. I think Dorsey actually tried to help him today. And I was shocked by that. But it's the entire tech bro culture of
right.
It's all about me. It's all about ideas. And again, I'm going to tie this into something I said earlier. Again, I love Bernie, but Bernie can't do brass tacks.
Right.
And Dorsey, do I think Dorsey is necessarily a fucking asshole? No, I don't. I think Dorsey's problem is that he can't do brass tacks. He's all ideas. And I do not appreciate people who do not find a way to either make peace with the fact that they don't know the brass tacks about something or find a way to do it themselves. And
That's
here's the
fair.
thing. If you can make peace with the fact that you can't do it yourself, good. You find someone who can help you do that job.
I mean, honestly, that's
I
the
can't.
sign of
I
a good
can't do
leader.
the part of the reason me and Lucas are together is because I could not figure out how to do marketing like Lucas could. I could not do that brass tacks. I wasn't going to try and even play around with it. I'm like, no. I
Well,
admit to myself that I don't know how to do that. I'm going to go find the person who can help me with that.
and when you look at company leaders or political leaders, you want to see that kind of thing because the whole idea is that you bring good people to the table. One of the reasons that W was such a liability and then Trump such a liability is that they brought progressively shitty people to the table to handle the shit they didn't know.
Yep.
W brought like either a combination of evil and incompetent or whatever. Trump just brought plain straight fucking cluelessness.
Oh yeah.
And that translates to business. So you mentioned Bernie, that's a good sign, which he doesn't have. The willingness to upfront say, you know what, I don't have all the answers. I got a bunch of people that I'm going to bring in that have all the answers.
Yeah. I mean, and you know, again, that's why I appreciate that sort of brass tacksness on Warren's part. And it's one thing that Elon never admits that he doesn't have. Elon does not know how to design a car. Elon does not know how to dig a tunnel. Elon does not know how to build a spacecraft. As I regularly like to point out, Elon Musk, who likes to say that we're all going to fucking colonize Mars, constantly doesn't really understand how magnetospheres work or radiation or genetic degradation. There we go. Genetic degradation works.
Yeah.
Which is one of the things I like to point out all the time. I'm like, if we colonize Mars, everyone on that planet is going to fucking die. And it's going to die nasty. It's not going to be pretty, dude. They're going to die nasty.
God damn. Well,
But you know what? Musk doesn't care. That's the reality, right?
Yeah, right.
And this is one of the things with Twitter is I'm terrified that if he gets control of Twitter, and I think this is where the board is thinking too. They're like, listen, we don't like each other. We don't like Dorsey. Apparently, like we are probably all like minorly, we go to the really actual evil satanic temple, and but we aren't sacrificing babies or anything like that. We're probably just having strange kinky sex, but even we aren't evil enough to hand over a major social media platform to these nutters. And I think that was Dorsey's problem. Is Dorsey wanted Dorsey is not. He's an idea guy, and he doesn't know brass tacks, and that made him mad. That people said these are brass tacks. It's great that you have an idea. You have no idea how it makes money. Musk knows how to make money only by virtue of his name. Like, because Tesla doesn't make money at all. Tesla is the only car company in America that doesn't make money.
Yeah, right.
It loses shit tons of money. It is so deep in debt. And honestly, if we had an actual functioning stock market where people cared about profit loss sheets, I mean, Tesla should be a penny stock.
Well, and I don't really do much with Twitter. It wouldn't leave a hole in my life if I decided, fuck it, it's a shit show. It's already a shit show. But like, it's already tricky to justify its existence and its relevance. If I had a bonus of $100 for every time I've had to convince some self-important executive that nobody gives a fuck about your Twitter, my general advice, and I get this a lot. I mean, I get this a lot with clients. I get this with work. The last 2 jobs I've had to be very honest with leaders. Like, look, not everybody is Elon Musk. Not everybody is
Thank God.
You name it in any sphere.
Otherwise, I'd get on the bandwagon and be like, nope, species is done.
But what I'm saying by saying that is,
cash it out. It's cool.
You don't have to like him, but people look at what he says on Twitter. The difference between these big dogs in the Twitter world and the CEO of a company that's regional, nobody fucking cares about what you got to say. Twitter is a place where people banter in real time. In my case, retweet a bunch of liberal shit just to wave their liberal dick around.
Yeah.
Talking more smack than Facebook lets you get away with, as proven by the fact that I'm going on 2 months with a death to Putin crosshair fucking profile image that Facebook would have hammered out long ago. But it's no longer useful. It's not a place for thinking people. It's not a intellectual discourse. It's just
it's a screaming chamber. It's a screaming chamber, and
a weird, bizarre, shameless self-promotion bubble. There's so much gross commercial shit. There are people that kind of manage to keep it dialed into an interesting conversation, but it's really fucking rare at this point.
No,
so it wouldn't kill me if his ass somehow took over. It wouldn't kill me to stick a pole in the ground with a flag on it and leave that platform. I wouldn't delete the account. I would put up some choice words on a fucking, pinned post. Fuck off. I'm out. Bye.
The only Twitter account worth, and I highly recommend this to any and everyone. The only Twitter account worth reading at all is Bellingcat. That's it. Bellingcat, which is, if you don't know who they are, they're a group of investigative journalists. They're a collective. They originally got together in London, and then when Brexit happened, they moved to Amsterdam, I think. The name is kind of funny. Belling the Cat. Right?
Okay.
Bellingcat. They are really great. They have excellent sources. They're often very much right. They find their way into a lot of places where you would not expect them to be. They are just absolutely phenomenal. In the early days of the Russian invasion of Ukraine, which is what turned me on to them, I don't know what the hell was happening, whose dick they were sucking at the Federal Security Bureau, but they had their pulse to their fingers directly on the pulse of what the Russian government was thinking during those early weeks, and they did an amazing job, and I highly recommend their Twitter. Other than that, the entire platform can burn in hell, and I won't give a shit.
Well, I just followed Bellingcat for you. There you go. Most importantly, though, now, if you've got another one, it's time to crack it open because it's time for another round.
Muted me before I could chew him out. I'm like, this is what happens. I already had to switch a beer. I'm nearly done with the second one because I had to open it early because you didn't go.
Well, I'll go first this time. Keeping with my unfortunate theme of Elks Brewing, because they are shutting down a few weeks from now. They will be their last day. I had not fully investigated their full lineup, so today I stopped by there to buy my variety pack. So this is a limited release from the Herd series. I kind of love it. Caleb, well, I love the name. I'm gonna do the big screen thing here. Caleb's Coconut Craze. So this is oatmeal cream stout, chocolate and coconut. I got to be honest, it's light on both of those. It isn't like, oh, coconut or oh, chocolate. It's kind of a lightweight mix of both. I think because it's a cream stout, it's not as stouty, which is fine because I pre-gamed before the show with my last pint of New Holland Bananas Foster as an ice cream float. So I've been doing the full stout flight fat kid thing tonight, apparently. This does not drink heavy like a stout might in some other context. It definitely doesn't overpower the coconut. Sometimes you get a coconut-oriented beer, and it tastes like you might as well have like porn bukkaki'd some fucking tanning lotion, right? Like it's just way too much. This has got a good balance, but it doesn't ring as heavy. That is 7%, which is nice. Real coconut, creamy, slightly sweet. Transport you to an island oasis. I don't know if I'm getting transported to an island oasis. More like a box of Valentine candy. It's got that kind of chocolatey, coconutty thing going on. So that's cool. It's good. It's one of many that they make that are good. And again, you got about 3 weeks to hit them up before it's all gone. So definitely do that. David, what's your refill?
This is a fairly common beer, at least in the South. I don't know how it is in Michigan.
In Michigan, we have a lot of other options in this breed.
Right. This is a fairly common beer here in the South. It's Lexington Brewery's Kentucky Bourbon Barrel Stout.
Always a go-to for me when it was on the menu in most places around Nashville if they didn't have any other real heavy hitters. And of course, when in Louisville or Lexington.
Yeah. Which I gotta be honest, there's better breweries in Lexington. There's lots better breweries in Lexington. What to say about this? So the flavor is great. It's obvious. Like the common problem that I find with people who want to put beer in liquor barrels, in spirit barrels, is it comes off too spirity.
Yeah.
It comes off. Did you remember to take the whiskey out the barrel before you put the beer in?
It's kind of the opposite of that one I had a couple weeks ago. The Oasis.
Yeah, I mean it's that common problem. They really did let the barrel rest, let the liquor, let the angel's share burn all the way the fuck off, and then put the beer in.
Well, it's apparently also only aged for 6 weeks in the barrel, which gives it a lighter touch.
Yeah, I mean, you get that very light bourbony flavor, which I got to be honest. I mean, even as a Tennessean, I will be the first to explain to everyone in America, our whiskey is shit. It is absolute shit. We sell it to you tourists because it makes us money. It is awful. Our whiskey is awful. All the people were like, "Oh, like you go to Japan. Oh, home of Jack Daniels."
To clarify, you mean Tennessee whiskey?
Yeah.
As a category, not because there have been some good bourbon, Bellmead bourbon.
No, our bourbon is fine. Bourbon's
fine. Good.
Anything that involves the word sour mash is terrible. To sour mash, there is no redeeming value in sour.
Well, there's
mash.
an off chance that there might be some brands that would give us a couple of bucks to pitch them on this show, but apparently Jack Daniels will never be one of them.
No, Jack Daniels will never be one of them. Because honestly, like, I want to clarify this. Gentleman Jack, the stuff that they let rest for a while,
right,
is okay. It's drinkable, but Black Label Jack Daniels is awful.
What about green?
Slightly less awful.
No, I get it though. But, Tennessee whiskey. First of all, there are lots of Uncle Nearest options.
Yeah.
That you don't have to settle for.
I'm sorry. Pappy said what?
Yeah. Right.
Because so that stuff. I mean, here's the deal. They don't make any pretension, right? They're making White Lightning, which for those of you who don't know, White Lightning is whiskey that is distilled and then aged for like a couple of days, and then
it really hasn't seen the oak,
right? Well, no, I don't think they oak it at all. And White Lightning is fine. I don't mind White Lightning. I will drink straight White Lightning all day long
because it is what it is.
Well, no. Here's the thing. I will because here's the thing. Even though White Lightning is still using a little bit of sour mash, they're using a corn. They're still using a corn base, right? By not letting it rest in the oak, I feel like they produce a spirit that doesn't try and assault you. Like my problem with most sour mash whiskey is it tries to assault the back of your throat. It's
Hmm.
not the front end. The front end has no flavor whatsoever. The irony of White Lightning is that White Lightning is all on the front end and nothing on the back end,
Right.
right? Because the oak adds this sourness. It takes whatever sour was in there and then says, you know what? I'm going to Led Zeppelin this shit. Let's take it up to 11. And it
For the record, that was Spinal Tap, sir.
was it Spinal Tap? I'm sorry. I was listening to a Led Zeppelin documentary earlier, so their name immediately popped into my head.
But did you go on a Led Zeppelin playlist bender like my all-day Sturgill Simpson overload that I
No, I did
myself-
not. No, I did not. I just listened to the documentary. So with this Kentucky bourbon barrel, they don't assault you. The one thing I wish that they had, I feel like they need a different yeast.
Do you have the can for that, or is it a growler?
It's a growler.
Okay.
I feel like they need a different yeast. And here's why, which is when I pour it, I get a huge head. And then very quickly
Yeah.
disappears. And so the problem is that I don't like it comes off very flat when I'm drinking it.
You know, I hadn't ever really applied a lot of thought, but you're right about that. It does flatten out.
It flattens out so hard.
They do consider it a sipping beer, so I guess maybe that's the general idea is to get it over with early so that it levels out the whole experience.
But I would prefer they use maybe a different yeast that produces a little bit more CO2 in this, because the problem is like, so my other one, which I've had on the show before, this Evil Twin, even more 8-pound 6-ounce newborn Jesus, right? It's a stout. And this is going to hang out with the bubbles for a little bit longer. And,
right.
Bubbles are not necessarily the point of a beer, but without them, I feel like when I'm drinking a bitter, because this is a little sweet, like this, for a strong ale, this is not super spicy. Like normally when you have what's called a strong ale, you're going to spice it up a little bit in the old school medieval style. You're going to add a little bit of spices to it. This is not super strongly spiced. This is relying on what the bourbon has already done to the barrel, what they've brought with the beer. And then the thing is, they're not wrong. What you walk away with is a good product. I think literally the only criticism I have is that even for a strong ale, the level of carbonation in it, the act of drinking it is not as enjoyable.
And to be fair, that's an OG. Like 06 was the release. I was just cheating, doing the Google cheat over here. That is one of the, when I first, let's see, 06, I'd have been old enough to get past bullshit basic. Because when I first became of age, my go-to was Amberbach. I know. Shut up. Leave me alone. But Amberbach, and I tried to include Heineken because my parents drank it. But
mine was Shiner. Mine was Shiner and Rolling Rock. So
well, cool. Then I don't have to feel as much shame in this.
No, you don't have to feel you don't have to feel shame at all, dude. Although I will say this, there is no shame in Shiner and Rolling Rock in the appropriate setting, man. If you're looking for for me, if I'm looking for a simple American lager, I'm still gonna reach for a fucking Rolling Rock.
So trying to figure out when some of the other famed bourbon barrels were released. I'm trying to find them.
And I'm going to be honest, it's still harder to find a better American Bock than Shiner Bock. I use Shiner Bock, and I don't drink it as much these days, but I still use it in cooking. Are there better Bocks? Yes. I mean, if you're looking for like an amazing Bock, I highly recommend going for Tilburg.
But you don't cook with an amazing Bock.
No, I would not cook with an amazing. I would not cook.
Like you don't cook
Tilburg
with phenomenal wine. I mean,
right. No, you don't. But I mean, if you're looking for an amazing Bock, go look at Tilburg. That is an absolute flat out amazing Bock, and I highly recommend if you can find it, Go guzzle like a whole case, and you'll be a new human being.
So,
Or
so
dead.
my
I
my
don't know.
my favorite, my sweet baby, my religion, Dragon's Milk, was a 2001 introduction. So it predated the Kentucky Bourbon, ironically, by 5 years. But
No distribution.
right, it didn't get very far, and Kentucky Bourbon Ale became kind of known. So yeah, I mean, it was my go-to in the region in the South for a good long time.
Yeah, I'm gonna throw this up here real fast. Olivia, there is no shame in drinking PBR. There is a drink named after me and Colin Beresford at several bars called the Hipster Hadouken, which is a PBR and a shot of Fireball. And I'm not gonna lie, it's if you're just looking to
Which
get
apparently the
little
hand signal
buzz,
for that is this.
you right? No, they've got
I've
rid
been
of all
to
my
so
old
many bars with David, he just goes, and they bring him.
They bring there
PBR
are several
Fireball.
bars where I can do this, and they bring me the Hipster Hadouken.
I don't get it.
He's watched this happen many times. I'm like, boop, boop.
I just don't get it. I'll show up. He's like done with a round, and he'll have his cigarettes ready to go, and he'll go, and then he takes off, and they set it down, and I'm like, how the fuck did they know this? But yeah, and you know what? He's right.
They also know left hand means beer, right hand means shot. So if I just do this, it means PBR.
That's
if
a
I just do
lot.
this,
I don't know how they keep your ass in line. Olivia, it's okay though.
This means gin and tonic, and yeah,
PBR has a certain kitsch to it now. It's fine. You know what, David? Now that we've gotten good and tipsy, we can talk about the big topic, and that is the growing insanity of the right. So David and I made a list of like shit going on in the last week, and we found that a whole bunch of them fell under the banner of just, I mean,
like we had to find a common topic because literally there was so much in our quick takes that we were just like, we can't fit all this under the quick takes. What's the common thread?
yeah, the common thread is that the GOP has lost its goddamn mind. It's like, even to a, you know, what's really funny is when you're jumping the shark at a bar that you've set, like they're jumping their own bar here. Like it's out of control.
I love Olivia's thing.
Immediately, DeSantis? Yes, that's one of them.
Yes.
So we've noticed a few key stories. Like, first of all, I picked up on the whole GOP bailing out on debates thing. Like, so
honestly,
their whole
I don't know
deal
if that's a sign of insanity, because honestly, if I were the GOP, I'd be like, I don't want to be in public. I don't want to do that. Although we did have the fist fight in the Ohio GOP primary, which was just like adorable. Because Vance wouldn't even show up, and then we got the Marine and the Rando to sit there and have a fist fight.
So their general idea is that they refuse to participate in the Commission on Debates stuff. So they're going to do, like, you can bet your ass that Fox will carry a Republican primary debate. And it will be roughly as organized as a WWE press conference from the middle of the ring before WrestleMania. And then I guess they'll just say fuck it to the general presidential or any other, debate. What I would prefer to see as a response would be that the Commission on Debates just says, okay, well, fuck off. You're still invited. We're still broadcasting for 2 hours. And if you choose to be stupid enough to let the only person speaking at what are now going to all be town hall format debates, then fuck off, you're absent.
And they should. The only problem is that they're spineless and they won't.
Because that would be solid gold to give the Democratic candidate 2 hours to just entertain questions from the crowd in a town hall environment and let the dumb fuck GOP miss out. They would probably miss about exactly one of them before they saw the nosedive in the polls that made them show up to the next one.
No, I don't necessarily know that would make sense to them. Because they've become that out of touch. They've become that insane.
Good point.
That they would blame. I mean, so
They'll just say liberal media. Ball.
right. No, I mean it's
I'll give you liberal media. Let the Young Turks host every fucking one of them while we're at it. Fuck you, liberal media, NBC, my ass.
but I mean it's the insanity of that they're going for, like Abbott right now. Abbott is killing it. I mean, he's crushing his own economy, right?
Yeah, yeah. Abbott's whole thing was, I love Eater. You know, Eater, the food website. So they wrote about this. Alleged fiscal conservative Greg Abbott's border blockade cost $240 million in spoiled goods. So Texas governor's pointless truck inspection policy resulted in rotted food and delayed deliveries. So basically, Greg Abbott decided that rising food costs, supply chain shortages weren't good enough. He needed to add to it from his fucking pathetic little fucking, like, he makes a bad name for every differently abled person in the whole fucking world, right? Like, there's nothing worse than these goddamn wheelchair Republicans right now. Like him and that fucking little shithead.
Damn.
Like, they make a bad name for people who actually deserve some help. Like, these fucking assholes need to have their fucking chair tipped at the top of some goddamn stairs. Fuck these guys.
Well, I
So-
mean, because it's absolute insanity. Like he. So we already have a bottleneck, and now he's going to play this game where
He
he's
decides
going
to invent his own policy because Texas.
Well, and for those of you who aren't familiar with this, so what Abbott decided to do was to randomly inspect every Mexican truck coming over the border for quote unquote health and safety, which they're allowed to do under the law. So now he is pulling over every Mexican truck, having state troopers who have no fucking mechanical experience inspect the mechanical worthiness of the truck and the health of the driver.
What does that look like? Do they, like, you know, push his lips back, look at his teeth, and then fondle his nuts? Like, what the fuck? I mean, I'm picturing a whole bunch of fucking shit-kicking rednecks inspecting dogs and horses.
That's how Abbott's daddy taught him to treat brown people. So yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
By the way, Brian's here. Hey,
At work,
Brian.
at
Yes,
least.
you are just in time for 420 Eve. We were talking about you earlier. He points out insanity is a good word for it, cutting off noses despite the face. It's so, I mean, it's just weird.
I mean,
it's
if
so
we already have a bottleneck,
astonishing.
why are you jamming this in? Why are you like it makes no sense. You're hurting your own economy.
Mm-hmm.
And you're the one doing it. Like there's no Biden here.
But the way they get away with it, David, is
there's no let's go Brandon moment here.
Their base is stupid enough to not understand, and so they get away with it. That's the bottom line, and that's the way they want to keep it. They want to keep that ignorant, dipshit, fucking low rent base on board because they'll never question any of their bullshit. It's astonishing.
And moving on from Abbott, then we have DeSantis and the racist math.
This is the best. So for those that don't know, there were like only 40% of the math text. First of all, let me put on my merciless uniform hat. I think it's fucking bullshit that there is a competition for textbooks in a state to begin with. Like, there shouldn't be a population of books from which to trim 60% of the books, right? Was it they trimmed 60 or 40? It was a 60-40. I just don't remember which way the split went.
You know what? I don't remember and I don't care.
It really, like, I know that somebody out there is going to be, you know, pissed at me because I'm not standing for enough authors, but how many fucking math textbooks do you goddamn need? Pick one, whole state. There it is. Fuck you. I don't understand why there should ever be a lot of books in contention for textbook. The state should just goddamn pick one, and it's the book that we all learn from in any given state. It already offends me that that you would learn from different books per state. To me, because I'm such a federal prick, it would be one goddamn book nationwide. We all read the same fucking textbook.
God damn it, Lucas! Stop making so much sense.
But somehow,
Stop it, Lucas.
Somehow, in the population of textbook possibilities, the Florida government decided, oh well, these math textbooks are teaching CRT and doing a bunch of other liberal shit that we don't approve of with race. You can guarantee that they found a word problem on page 48 that said something about Todd went to the grocery store with both of his moms, and they were like, "Oh my god!" And they eliminated the fucking book.
No. You know what it was? You know what it was? I can almost guarantee that this is what it was. It is. They included brown people, number one, and number two.
Yeah, there's an illustration of a black kid on the cover. They're like, "Nope, fuck this, burn it."
Yeah, there's that, and also, when their textbook selection committee went out, those are the companies that didn't take pictures of them with the hookers. Which companies didn't take pictures of them with the hookers? That would be the ones who just got thrown off for CRT.
Yeah. And then, of course, Olivia points out we don't get to know like the names of the books or the examples of the content because I don't know. I don't know why. You'd think they'd be proud of their bullshit,
right? Here's the thing: if there was actual CRT in them, if there was actually something they could point to and say this is genuinely CRT, they would point to it. I swear to God, it's the hookers. It's the hookers, or the blow, or something else. And these are the companies that didn't hire a PI to sit there and take pictures while the selection committee was either having sex with hookers or doing blow or doing blow on hookers.
Oh boy, that reminds. So in my musical benders of the week that I've already been through, yesterday involved a heavy Aerosmith rotation. And there were some glorious lyrics from Get a Grip that I had totally forgotten existed. And of course, you can imagine Aerosmith lyrics from the late 90s don't hold up very well. And what you just said reminds me of the line, rather BODing on the crack of her ass, which is just such a snorting coke off the bum of a hooker line that I've.
Yeah.
No,
I mean, that's what happened. And Olivia's right. It doesn't exist. No, it doesn't exist. It is a reason for them to block out. They need a reason, and they want to make political hay out of it. I'm sure some political operative in their offices was like, "Hey, we don't like these math textbooks. It has nothing to do with anything really, other than again, hookers and blow."
Black kid on the cover.
So why don't we just blame it on CRT?
Yeah,
and score some extra political points, which is exactly what they've done.
Yeah.
Because it is. I've said it before, and I'm going to say it again. The right rules by continual crisis. There always has to be an immediate crisis.
Well, and they don't have any ideas, and they're not for anything, so they have to be against stuff, and it has to be a crisis. That's.
The border has to be in crisis. The border was not in fucking crisis.
And it's super easy because
CRT
the right wing is so homogenized about how they do things.
What? And I'll be honest. Like the left, every now and then can wander into this realm as well. I would argue, and I say this as a supporter of the Me Too movement. I want to be very clear. I say this as a supporter of the Me Too movement. That at a certain point, Me Too became a crisis, right?
Literally everything had to be about the biggest and worst.
And I'm not saying from a social perspective that women don't need more representation, especially the exploitation of women. But we made it a political crisis in a way that was maybe it wasn't right?
Yeah.
So, oh yeah, the groomer thing. Jesus, I'm putting that up. Jesus, man, you fucking Joseph.
Yeah. So what was this? I'll be happy when all the GQP people forget they were taught the word groomer, because boy, is it getting old seeing that word just casually. So how are they tossing around grooming?
You haven't heard? You have not heard this?
No, apparently
Oh
not.
my god, no. So, the trans, like hanging the trans flag anywhere children can see it, is grooming them. Hanging the
Oh,
LGBTQ flag is grooming them.
so they're
It's
conflating the word
grooming them
grooming
to
with
be
informed.
gay leather sex slaves.
So David, I'm gonna draw an unpopular bridge between what you just said about the left making everything into a crisis,
Well, no,
and
the right making everything a crisis.
no, but you said the left is guilty of it too. I'm gonna draw
I
that
said
bridge.
I want to be very clear. The left is guilty of it. Are they guilty of it on the same level?
Okay.
No.
But I hate this devil's advocate ball cap that I'm about to put on.
No, you can choose not to wear it right now. I'm just going to let you know.
I'm putting the devil's advocate
I can
ball
shoot
cap
you
on.
in you asshole if you
Yep.
like. I mean, it's fine.
I'm putting
It's
it on.
not
Here
what
it
I
goes.
expected to do this evening.
Here it goes. Okay, David, you just said that the left goes too far sometimes with our buzz woke phrases. This is one of those times. The right is using the term grooming in a way to mock what we've done with the term. And I say that because we have a whole bunch of wokey
What?
bullshit running around slapping the term grooming on everything.
What?
And you ready? I'm dropping bombs. This is fucking Cambodia. It's also racist. And here's why. I'm still waiting for somebody to tell me about Justin Bieber grooming young women, because we seem to be really quick to talk about black artists grooming young women.
Okay.
So let me
no.
qualify.
No. It's unpacking time, Lucas. It's unpacking time.
I particularly hate this term.
It's the Marie Kondo portion of this show, man. We are getting rid of everything that doesn't bring us joy.
Hold on. Let's add some levity. Brian makes a great point. Misusing that word really takes away from all of Matt Gaetz' many accomplishments.
Right.
But that speaks to what I'm getting at. But you go ahead, and then I'll rebut.
I mean, so here's the thing. We have talked about Justin Bieber. We have talked about R. Kelly. We have talked about all these things. The problem with what they're doing, it's really like using the word what's a good example? Actually, this is a pretty good example. Hoodie. Hoodie seems like an innocuous. If I just say the word hoodie,
You mean hoodie with a Y?
no, just i.e. like the thing that you wear.
Okay.
If I just say the word hoodie, right,
Yeah.
on its own, you're just like, that's an article of clothing,
Right.
right? It's easy. I wear hoodies when it's cold. I don't wear them when I live in the South, so I don't wear them for that much of the time because I would die.
Conversely, I've learned that it is the indigenous clothing of the Midwest. But proceed.
Right?
I now own twice as many hoodies as I did when I got here.
Right. So I mean, hoodie, right? It means nothing on its own. But then when I put hoodie and black man together, what happens?
Well, boogeyman for the right.
I've got a criminal. I've got a criminal right there. I've got an instant fucking criminal. Right? I put hoodie and white guy together. It's just someone jogging around.
It's a sports fan or something.
Right? Yeah. So the problem is, I see where you're trying to go. I see where you're trying to go. But the problem is, when you put hoodie and white guy together, it's just someone jogging around. Right? So the problem is, I see where you're trying to go. But the problem is, when you put hoodie and white guy together, it's just someone jogging around. but context matters,
Well,
right?
but here's the thing, David. I don't approve of the generalized application that either of these entities, right or left, have applied to the term grooming. And here's why I don't approve of it. Grooming, we saw that, we prosecuted it, and the guy was a heavy hitter in the Mormon church. Grooming is not happening to be
That was him
famous.
actually having sex with all those underage girls, just to clarify.
Right.
That wasn't grooming.
Grooming is not happening to be famous and being an aspirational sex symbol to your underage fans. That's just shit the way it is. That's not grooming.
I don't think. Here's the thing. I think only rightists would point it that way, because here's the problem.
No, the left has all the way doubled down on that.
Where? Point.
You're not going to like my example.
Go for it.
Because I was a big deal in fandom conventions. I was grooming young fangirls.
Okay.
Whereas
no, I'm
I just happened to be the guy that was well known on stage.
I'm going to pause this conversation right now, because the problem is that, and for all of you watching, I apologize that this is getting because this is a personal thing for Lucas, and I get that.
It is personal because I think it's a stupid word that we've allowed to be abused.
I'm going to apologize to everyone for this reason, because what happened to Lucas was not right. I'm going to make that very clear. Was Lucas grooming women? No, it was not. I was there. I watched it happen. Did people accuse him of this? Yes. Has this given Lucas a chip on his shoulder sometimes, where he can't fucking understand the difference between people who are actually doing bad things and people who are accused of bad things? Yeah, it has.
But that leads me to my R. Kelly. R. Kelly's probably a bad example because he really did the shit.
He did, because here's the thing, Lucas. I was there.
But I was Bieber. Let me point out my Bieber example.
Who the fuck is accusing Bieber of grooming anyone?
That's the problem. If you're gonna say grooming is measured by the standard of someone who happens to be famous and happens to have fans that are underage, that one day become old enough to potentially bone them backstage, then you have to apply it equally to white artists as you do black artists. And there we have the duplicity of the left trying to sling around this hysteria of grooming, when grooming is a real phenomenon that some people did. I don't know that R. Kelly groomed anybody. He just fucking raped somebody.
Right, so the point
we
of
need
the
to cut
matter
to
is
the fucking chase.
So the point of the matter is with the grooming thing. I just want I want to get us back on track. So I want to end
we're on track, David. The right sees how stupidly liberal we liberals are about applying the term grooming to every fucking thing, and so now they're doing it.
Dude, the train is completely
they're doing it to stick it to the libs.
The train is completely off the rails. I'm going to end this vein of this conversation because we have other things that we need to move on to.
They're only using that term, David, because we've been so bad about applying. I'm going to
end this vein on this conversation with saying this. You know, the entirety of their idea of what is grooming is simply exposing children to the fact that some people are gay, and that's enough for them, and that's not grooming. So
no, it's not.
So that ends that vein of the conversation.
But David, we on the left, in our hashtag obsessions, have made it a thing to apply terms back to what you said about us going into crisis for sensational benefit. We've over applied the term grooming in the culture. No, and the right is calling our bluff.
Lucas, I want to point out that the left really hasn't. You have
it has.
No, you have experienced a lynch mob, and
Flip
I get
through
it.
the aforementioned Twitter, my friend, and look at the hashtags for grooming.
I know, dude. You've experienced a lynch mob, and
dude, it's not me. It's not me. It's the fact that people just accept, people that consider themselves progressive and woke, they accept this notion that everyone is grooming and everyone isn't grooming.
Does Bernie Sanders talk about grooming? No. Okay. How about Warren? How about fucking AOC? No. How about I don't know. I'm trying to think of another leftist luminary.
Basically, David, it's like every other pathetically bad phrase that we've come up with in the past 5 years.
Does MSNBC get up in arms about some sort of grooming?
David, I can encapsulate the whole thing for you. We suck at sloganing.
We do.
The right has made critical race theory into a goddamn brilliant subtitle for every fucking thing, including goddamn math textbooks. And we're over here slinging around defund and grooming like we know what the fuck we're talking about. We have no fucking idea what one central core belief is.
The thing I would argue, Lucas, is that most people on the left are not slinging around grooming. The vast majority are.
The left loves to sling around bad slogans. Do not tell me they don't, because I just had to listen to a whole week of defund shit in my city.
I don't know. Defund is fine. I mean, I get it, because I can get the.
But it's not fine. It's a terrible fucking slogan. Just like Occupy is a retarded, directionless movement.
I'm just saying that the grooming thing is not something the left is throwing around in the same way.
I don't think you spend enough time in trashy social media circles to see how bad it is.
Well, because you know what, Lucas? They're trashy social media circles. Why the fuck would anyone go do that?
Because they influence millions of people's thinking.
But they really don't, Lucas.
But they do.
But they really don't.
Your man Elon Musk has the ear of millions of people to hear his bad ideas. It is the same across the board for everything.
I can hear his ideas all the way up, apparently, in my fucking ivory tower. The thing is, you're talking about something that I think if you look for it, you'll find it. But I think one of the problems is that leftists aren't genuinely looking for. Rightists are grooming people. Why? Because that's not how I think leftists think about this situation. I think.
Well, no, and for the right, I mean, the right
on the other hand, conservatives on the other hand are looking. The problem is, Lucas, you're looking for leftist groups that are looking for grooming. That's the problem. And you know what? It's the internet. You'll find it. If you're looking for horticulturalists who are only concerned with the Jerusalem fucking tulip, you know what you'll find? You'll find a whole group of horticulturalists only concerned with the Jerusalem fucking tulip. I get where your personal experiences.
They're trying to attach to popular terms. They're trying to sensationalize. In reality, all they're doing is taking awareness of acceptance. Basically, their attempt to use the word grooming is the latest in a long line of xenophobic garbage that they tend to exact upon the people. I get that, but they wouldn't be using the term if we hadn't so overused the term. And they're going to do it to every fucking thing. I mean, we gave them the phrase CRT. We gave it to them through higher education, and they were able to hijack it. And I think kind of what Brian points out here, that shit works on idiots. They hijack CRT because they can label anything CRT.
We need to move on. We need to move on, and because we still haven't touched on my favorite fucking topic, which is the red ball box. We have not talked about the red ball box yet, Lucas, and that makes me mad.
By all means, we need to hurry up and talk about testicles.
We're heading up for our time limit.
So
we've not talked about the red ball box.
So you talked about the fake crises, the endless. Oh my God, everything's a crisis. So the big crisis that a lot of those on the right are talking about lately is the death of masculinity or something. And to some extent, I get what they're saying, but their version is really fucked up.
I don't, because literally the best description of what, and I want to point this out. There is a strong, and this is one of the things I see when I look at Tucker Carlson's documentary.
For those that don't know, it's Tucker Carlson that's in the spotlight concerning tanning balls, basically.
The red ball box. It's the red ball box. That's what it is. I'm not deviating at all from that description. Not in the slightest. Not in the slightest. It's the red ball box. The idea is that we have emasculated American men. And I want to point out that there is a long history of, and actually, it was one of the things that was most shocking to me to learn, because I did not expect to learn this, that there is a strong proclivity within fascist circles to promote homosexuality amongst men, right? And the reason is because women are inferior, right? Women are weak. Women are inferior.
It takes the reliance on women out of the equation, or something.
Strength must recognize strength, and if it evolves into a sexual attraction, then, well, that's only strengthening their manliness, right? And everyone who's watched
a weird take.
Everyone who's watched Tucker Carlson's, my best take, the best take that I've heard on Tucker Carlson's little thing about masculinity is it was a comment on it, which is, I'm gay. I'm sitting next to my gay husband while I research gay things for my next gay book, and I will never be as gay as Tucker Carlson.
That's valid.
Because the entire thing is
Brian has a long arc of patience when he looks at these things, and manhood survived the era of the dandy, and it will survive cuckold Carlson. Olivia points out this sounds like the I'm alpha male shenanigans. Sounds like someone's trying to sell a lot of new Corvettes.
No, I mean, because it is actually really random, and in fascist circles about this need to embrace sexualized masculinity as the penultimate thing, and because what's really common, I want to point this out, what's really common amongst conservative men right now, and I know this from using dating websites, which is, it's really not uncommon to see every profile labeled, if you're a Republican or you voted for Trump, don't talk to me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It is. Yeah. That is something that I repeatedly hear women discuss. Is one of the first things I put on my profiles is, leave me the fuck alone if you're Trump. And that's probably a good first policy. So when I say I understand what they're talking about, I understand some of the basic stuff. The problem is they've crisisized it, right? Like,
right, because Republicans have to roll through crisis.
Asking men to be less burp and fart in your face is somehow a total disgrace to the manness of the entire segment. I would say half of the population, but I'm not allowed to say that anymore.
I mean, it's silly. One of the things I would point out, this is one of the things that I would point out about their definitions of masculinity. The entire idea of women cooking is entirely built out of the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Everywhere before that, men were supposed to cook. The kitchen was a man's domain. We were the ones who would go hunt and bring the food in. We were the ones who would cook it. But now it's, oh, you know how to use spices? Are you faggy?
Well, now it's even worse. Now we're breeding an entire generation or two that have no fucking idea how to cook anything. It doesn't matter if they're a man, woman, or fucking like all points in between. I mean, we're just giving up. So if we're gonna have a controversial kitchen discussion, my thesis would be, get your fucking ass off of DoorDash and learn to make your goddamn food. Hashtag any generation younger than mine. No offense, David. I know you'll get mad.
Yeah, well, but I want to bring this up because it's actually kind of funny. a cultured gentleman. One of the ironies of historical masculinity that I find is absolutely hilarious. Why does the statue of David have a tiny dick? Right? You've seen the statue of David.
Sure. I just always figured that David was a grower, not a shower.
Right. No, there's actually a classical reason why David has a shortened penis, and it is because
You have applied far more academic thought to this than I ever have. Go ahead.
well, no, because it's actually a thing. It's actually like a very big Greek thing, which is men.
Apparently, it's not a big Greek thing; it's a little Greek thing. But keep talking.
Right? No, men with penises that were too large were savages and unfit for civilized society.
I think I remember hearing this somewhere.
All right.
Wow, those poor civilized women.
Well, also, I want to point this out. We use this today, don't we? Right? BBC, big black cock.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah,
We still use it.
it's alive and well. That's a good point.
Yeah. It is the point of what Tucker Carlson is trying to convey is not actually traditional masculinity. What it actually is it is futurism and traditional right.
Someone's been perusing Pornhub. Thank you, Brian. Thank you so much.
You know what? It's 2022. If you're anywhere below the age of 50 and you don't know what BBC is,
fair enough. So you're saying that there is a 50-50 likelihood above 50 that you think it's the British broadcasting.
There is, yeah. There's
so I think I get where you're going with that. You know, Tucker's version. Of course, we will never know the line between conservative theater and Tucker's core beliefs because he's a 100% sellout. But
my mom still gets pissed
the
about the
idea
fact
that he's pitching. The idea that he's pitching is a contorted masculinity that the right wants to sell but doesn't necessarily believe in. Lindsey Graham.
They never do because the problem is that this is straight out of fucking futurist propaganda of the the finely muscled true strength man. Because if you look at 1920s, 1930s German and Russian propaganda, right? It was this idea that like we will chisel a pure, strong man who we've never actually looked like that.
Well,
not even the Greek athletes actually looked like that. It's just muscles are really easy to carve into stone.
And we see how that pans out, right? Like Putin is obsessed with that vision.
Right, because because strength is what they expect people to respect, right?
Right.
It has to be strength. It has to be we have to be strong, we have to be virile. And because that is a problem, I will say honestly amongst many white men at this point. And there's a lot of reasons, and a lot of the reasons are self-inflicted with regards to us poisoning the environment with chemicals.
Yeah, really.
Of fertility amongst white nations, because if you look at the strong virile men of Russia, even amongst white populations in other countries, the white population in America is still growing. It's not growing as fast, but it is still growing. The white population in the UK is still growing. Germany, in Russia, it is on the verge of fucking collapse. And
who cares?
Well,
other than
that,
but
I mean, like it's on the verge of collapse. I mean, like they can't do enough to promote birth in Russia, simply because the conditions are so bad And worse off than that is that they can look across the border, and they could up until now, and see how much better things could be, and then realize, well, I can't afford that. Well, maybe if I hold off on having a kid for a little bit longer. So I mean, there's a reason why there's homoerotic overtones in Tucker Carlson's documentary. There's reasons why they're focusing on this idea of pure masculinity, because they want violent people. They want violent men who will go do violent things and prove their manliness, right? Prove that they are.
They need the dominance of violence over intellect.
Well, because what is the dominance of violence over intellect? What did that give Germany?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before we run off, I do want to pull up Brian's large and informative paragraph, which I'm not going to read through. He always gives us the honor of a great rundown of his buffet of the evening. And as it is the eve of 420, 2 hours away from 420 at this point on the East Coast. So Brian will be the poster child, I think, for our broadcast of the 420 pending celebration. And then I want to point out currently our Preds, as we adjourn to go watch hockey, Preds are up
Preds
1 point, 2-1 on the Calgary Flames going into
there we go.
Third
That's what
period.
we need to hear. That's what we need to hear.
So that's good shit.
Soros, go do it.
Wasn't it last week where it was a 0-0 game? That was neat.
It was a straight tie.
It was tied 0-0, went all the way into overtime for any kind of win. That was really cool. Anyway, it is that time, ladies and gentlemen. We appreciate you joining us as always. Feel free to subscribe, like, share, etc.
Yeah.
We don't care if you hit the bell, but feel free to hit it if you want to know when we're bumping gums.
No, we'd like you to hit the bell. We'd like you to hit the bell. Please hit the bell.
Next week we'll be here. David may have to wing it a little bit, but I'm going to rush home. I'm not going to stay for the whole show over at the commission, but I will be dropping in on that. So
that'll be fine.
We will see you next week. And for now, we will bid Brian good evening, and the rest of you good evening, and we will say good night,
good evening,
and
good luck.